Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I hope that you're doing well. Well, today we're going to talk about, among other things, the most important civil rights lawsuit in modern time. And I am not exaggerating. That is not hyperbole. You have tuned in to the right place at the right time because we're going to give you the right information. So you stay with us. All right. Thank you for sticking with us and hanging out with us today. We got a very exciting and informative show lined up for you. We're going to talk about the most important civil rights lawsuit in modern time. And as I said in the beginning, this is not hyperbole. I'm not trying to pump you up. I'm going to we're going to share with you some information today that is critical to the African American community. And after we do that, then we're going to lighten it up with some other things. But this first 10 or 15 minutes or so, I'm telling you, you need to stay in here with us. All right, Chloe, how are you, sweetheart? How are you? How is my favorite daughter? How you doing?
I'm good, and your only daughter, Dad. So put that in perspective for everybody. I am so good. Happy Saturday! I am so glad to be here. Wow, the topic that we're talking about, this lawsuit, is so interesting. It's so important for the Black community. So I'm so ready to get into it, guys. Look, we have a goal. We are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. And we need your help. We need your help. Tell your family, friends, tell strangers about our channel. We want to get many
Oh,
amazing connections. I'm frozen. Let's see.
you're
Okay,
not
there we
anymore,
go.
but you were.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, guys, 5,000 subscribers. Tell the people at the grocery market, tell your friends, share our YouTube channel with them, and let them know they're going to be getting the right information. So that is our goal, 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. With that, Dad, I'm good.
Excellent. And by the way, you have tuned in to the Defiant Lawyers. I am Attorney Augustus Corbett, a.k.a. the Minister of Justice, and you have heard already from Chloe Corbett, who is
The Duchess of Justice.
the Duchess of Justice. And together we are the Defiant Lawyers. We are a father-daughter legal team who each Saturday bring you exciting information. To be specific, what we do is we do legal analysis of trending politics, policies, personalities, and pop culture so that you will be empowered with the information you need to be a legal rebel and to make this system work for you. Make this legal system work for you. The legal system, the law, it is so awesome when you understand it and when you know how to use it to your advantage. If you're not a subscriber, please go ahead and subscribe. Help us reach that 5,000 subscriber goal. That is our goal between now and the end of the year. And we can do that real easy. Go ahead, Chloe.
Get your phones out. I'm about to post that we are live now. We go live. This is real, raw, and honest. This is not scripted. We're not edited. We're going to give you this information real, raw, and live. I'm about to post on my social media as we do.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. You froze again. I think I do know what's going on. Check to make sure that you're connected by the Ethernet and not by the Wi-Fi.
Yep, I'm connected by the Ethernet.
Okay, well that should solve that issue. Um, okay, I don't. Okay, so let's just see how it goes. But that's typically the problem when you start freezing up. But at any event, let's get into this, Chloe. So we want to talk about again what we believe is the most important civil rights lawsuit in modern times. Um, I say modern time because I'm talking about the last 60 years, 60, 65 years in my lifetime. Before that, there was the Civil Rights Law, the Civil Rights Act, and the Fair Housing Act, the Voting Rights Act. Well, there is this lawsuit that's pending in federal court. In fact, let's go to the screen now. And you see the golden arches there, MacDonalds, and you see these two people on both sides. Both of these people you should be familiar with. One is Byron Allen, and the other is Loretta Lynch, former Attorney General, first black female to become the Attorney General of the United States of America. Now, Byron Allen has sued McDonald's. In fact, I did a video on this lawsuit a year ago because it's been pending now. I want you to go to our channel and listen to that video because I don't want to go back and rehash all of that. But basically, Byron Allen sued McDonald's, alleging that McDonald's is racially discriminating against his company, Entertainment Studios Network Incorporated. Byron Allen owns the Griot. He recently bought the Black News Channel. He owns the Weather Channel. He owns Lifestyle Channel and various other television networks. And he wants McDonald's to advertise on his TV stations, on his network. And he has alleged in his lawsuit that McDonald's is not boycotting, is not advertising on his network because of racism. So he sued them in federal court. And it's a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. And it's based on Section 1981 in the federal code. Now, Chloe, could you tell us a little bit about what Section 1981 is all about?
Yeah, so a lot of people may think, why is this topic important? How does it apply to me? Well, it goes back to the discrimination and racism that Black people in the United States have faced in this country. A lot of times we were not able to get into contract with other people. If we were done wrong or if we were injured, we were not able to file lawsuits. Um, and if we were discriminated against by a restaurant or a store, we had no legal recourse to hold them accountable in court. That's where Section 1981 comes into play, and that's why it's so important. So it establishes that African Americans should be given the same rights as white people in this country. And I want to read it specifically what it says. It says that it guarantees the following rights: to make and enforce contracts. So African Americans, like white citizens, are now able to make and enforce contracts because of this statute. To sue, to be able to sue people, to be able to hold them accountable when they injure us, to be a party in in a legal or civil suit, to put on evidence on ourselves on how the other person has injured us, and to be given full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings for the security of persons and property as is enjoyed by white citizens. So that is what Section 1981 says of the United States Code of the. It was enacted after the 1866 Civil Rights Act. Basically, it allows us the same rights that white Americans enjoy in order to make contracts and to be parties and to hold responsible people or entities who hurt us.
All right, now let's kind of let's simplify it. Let's simplify it some. So when you go to buy a car, you must enter a contract with the bank in order to buy that car unless you pay for it cash. The reason African Americans are able to do that and white establishments cannot discriminate against us and say, hey, we're not selling you a car, is because of Section 1981. Like Chloe said, which was one of the Reconstruction statutes that was passed immediately after slavery, during Reconstruction. And it was passed specifically for African Americans, for the newly freed slaves, and it was to try to put African Americans on equal footing because, again, we were not in a situation, whites during that time would not do business with us. We couldn't enter a contract to buy land, to buy property, to buy anything. They wouldn't do it. So the federal government said, no, you got to stop that. Blacks are citizens. They have the same protections under the U.S. Constitution as whites. And so this statute was put in place to ensure that we could enjoy the same benefits as other people, and that law is still in place. We have sued people or entities, as Chloe said, under Section 1981. So if you go into an establishment, say a bank, and the bank doesn't treat you right, and maybe you're in a contract with the bank and the bank doesn't treat you right because you're black, or the bank won't enter a contract with you because you're black. If you go to a law office and say, I feel like I've been discriminated against, that lawyer will file your case under Section 1981. 42, I believe I think it's 42 USC Section 1981. Now, if a police officer or a bailiff or correction officer uses their authority to harm you in some way, then we sue them under a different section of 42 USC. USC stands for United States Code. That means federal law. And that would be under Section 1983. So, literally, you all, this is what we're trying to get you to understand. Literally, every contract that we enter, from the lease contract to the mortgage contract to the car contract, the banking contract, the only reason whites have to enter into contracts with us is because of Section 1981. And so Byron Allen sued McDonald's, alleging that McDonald's is intentionally not advertising on his TV network because he's African American. So that's why he sued them. Before that, he sued Charter Communications and he sued Comcast, okay, alleging the same thing because it's costing him millions of dollars, Chloe. McDonald's is not advertising with him, so he's losing a lot of money. And so what happened here recently is, let's go back to the screen. What happened recently is McDonald's filed a 12B6 motion. If you would, Chloe, explain to the audience what a 12B6 motion is and and explain to us what that's all about.
A 12B6 motion is just when a party, usually a defendant, will go to the judge and ask the judge to dismiss the plaintiff's lawsuit. And the defendant is saying that the plaintiff has not put up a claim on which the lawsuit should even be in court. So the defendant is just asking um, the judge to dismiss the entire lawsuit,
Exactly.
and that yeah, and that's what McDonald's has done in this case. And let's take it back. What is a plaintiff? A plaintiff is a person who the person that files the lawsuit in court, and they're saying that they have been harmed or damaged in some way. The defendant is the person that they are suing. So in this case, the plaintiffs are three entities that are owned by Byron Allen, three media companies. The defendant is McDonald's, and McDonald's has asked the court to dismiss Byron Allen's, the plaintiff's entire lawsuit, saying that he has not proven that his group was racially discriminated against by McDonald's not advertising on his TV networks, and they lost. And in terms of that, the judge denied that motion, and we'll get into that.
Yes, yes, he did. The judge did. Let's go back. Right here, I have the section of the judge's order which denied McDonald's motion to dismiss Mr. Allen's, McDonald's motion to dismiss Mr. Allen's lawsuit. And you see it says right here, defendant's motion to dismiss the third amended complaint is denied. And it's the third amended complaint because McDonald's had filed two previous motions to dismiss, 12B6 motions. And the judge denied those as well and gave, in one case, he gave Byron Allen's company the opportunity to amend, in both cases actually, two previous motions, gave them the opportunity to amend their complaint. And after they amended the complaint, the judge then said, no, I'm not granting the motion. And so Byron Allen's company amended the complaint three times.
Amend, you mean just change the complaint?
Yes, just made some change that was necessary to avoid the 12B6 dismissal.
And the complaint is the document that you file in court saying, hey, judge, McDonald's has harmed us in this way, A, B, C, and D. This is why we believe we need to get money. I'm trying to break it down as simply as possible.
Yeah, thanks for that. We need to keep it simple.
So what you're saying is the judge made Byron Allen go back, change and add some stuff to that complaint, and then he denied McDonald's request to dismiss the lawsuit.
That's right. So this final amendment that Loretta Lynch, and I'm not going to begrudge Miss Lynch. She is, I feel some kind of way about it because she's an African-American woman, first black African-American female attorney general, that these companies, she's also representing the NFL in their defense of discrimination, racial discrimination filed by, what's his name? The coach. His name, I just had it on the slip of my tongue. Sanchez, I believe it is. So she represents some of these big time companies who are defending themselves against racial discrimination lawsuits. So they have this black woman who was the former attorney general, who was also U.S. attorney in the Eastern New York district there in New York City, from North Carolina, a homegirl actually. So I feel some kind of way about it, but then as a lawyer, I know that we represent people all the time that other people despise. Okay, Chloe and I represent people who are not popular. um, nationally or locally. So I'm not going to, make a big deal out of Loretta Lynch representing these companies.
And she's trying to get her coin. I mean, she's trying to get her coin, and also it shows too. I think how respected she is as a legal mind, that all of these big corporations, especially like McDonald's, which is one of the biggest multi-billion-dollar corporation in the world. I read reports that their revenue is 60 billion dollars plus each year in revenue.
Well, I read it was 100 billion.
Really?
A
Wow.
100 billion, yes.
And that puts it in context too, even larger than Loretta Lynch representing them. Byron Allen, while wealthy himself and a media conglomerate entrepreneur, he's going against the big dogs, McDonald's. A lot of people just think of McDonald's, fast food, no. They are, as you heard us say, a multi billion-dollar company that has global presence around the world. And he's saying one of the most biggest, largest corporations in the world discriminated against him and his companies because he is black. He's black and he owns those companies. I mean, that is big. And we know, other big corporations are looking and taking note because their chickens may be coming home to roost, or however the saying goes, for other corporations as well, Amazon and all of the other large corporations. So it's big, that it's huge that we focus on this lawsuit to see what happens and plays out.
So why is it so important for African Americans? It is because if McDonald's wins this case, or another scenario, let's say, there are two different scenarios. Let's say McDonald's wins this case. I don't know how that may happen. I don't know if they end up going to trial or something and the jury sides with McDonald's. That could do damage to Section 1981. That could make it harder for other plaintiffs because of this lawsuit. Or let's suppose either party loses, and then the case makes its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, we know how that's going to go.
Exactly.
With the way the court is made up now.
Exactly. So they could definitely, would likely issue a ruling that would tremendously weaken Section 1981. Okay? It's 6 of them, so they got the power to do about anything at the U.S. Supreme Court. So that's why this really, I'm doing my best to try to explain to you all. Chloe and I, we're doing our best to try to explain to you all that contracts are a huge part of our lives. I mean, in so many different ways. And we live in a country where the majority race, white people, the country has had to force them to treat us respectfully, to treat us equitably. I mean, amendments to the Constitution, federal laws had to be enacted, state laws had to be enacted because of this hostile environment that we find ourselves in. So we take these laws for granted, like they're going to just be there all the time. No, not necessarily. Not if we don't fight to protect them. And so if some damage was done to this particular statute, the next time you go buy a car, you want to go buy a car, or the next time you want to buy a home, or the next time you want to go and get some money out of your bank account, or the next time you want to go to the bank and cash a check, or the next time you want to, so many different things. Now, there are other laws, and Chloe, I see you're about to say something. There's the Civil Rights Act that protects our right to sleep at a particular hotel, the public accommodations, or go to a restaurant. That's covered by the Civil Rights Act of 1965, 64. So that's the only reason why we're able to go to our favorite restaurants and there not be a whites only sign. So our daily rights, dignity are protected by these laws. And if our enemies get the opportunity, they will weaken these laws. That's why we said in the beginning, this is the most important civil rights lawsuit in modern times. And let me just say this, Chloe. Byron Allen is a businessman, as you just said, right? He's a billionaire. He owns TV stations, et cetera. He's doing very well. So we don't know his motive. I did hear him say that he had a conversation with Coretta Scott King. He was on the Breakfast Club. And he said Coretta Scott King told him that the civil rights movement has been fought in stages. First, there was the stage of getting rid of slavery. Then there was the Jim Crow era. She told him, Byron, you now are fighting this last stage of economic equity. So that's what he sees himself doing. Not just fighting to grow his businesses bigger, but in his mind, he's taken Coretta Scott King's words very seriously and is trying to open doors for economic equity. Okay?
Yeah, and to your point about this Section 1981 being weakened, let's keep it real. What a lot of people don't realize is we may have this statute, but what is important is how the courts and judges interpret the statute.
That's right.
And a lot of times, these claims get thrown out quickly at the 12B6 stage. That's why we wanted to focus on this today. The fact that this judge in this particular case did not throw out this lawsuit pursuant to that 12B6 motion is big because a lot of them do. And the way that courts interpret this statute is kind of constrained. Okay, what does it mean to be a contract? What does it mean to enforce a contract? So my point is, a lot of it has been stripped away, and that is also why the judges that we have in place that are elected or are appointed by the president who is elected are important, because they're the ones that are going to be looking at these cases and statutes and interpreting them and potentially, whittling away our rights or making it more difficult even if we do bring a lawsuit in court, throwing it out quickly.
What you said is so critical, so critical, so critical.
Yeah.
One of the ways that Section 1981 has been weakened, back when the Chief Justice was William Rehnquist, who was no friend of African Americans. He was the Chief Justice, and so he had a lot of influence on the court. And him and other conservatives were able to interpret cases in such a way that the requirement became that you had to prove intentional discrimination. You couldn't just say, okay, just look at the results. Just look at how these policies or how this company, look at the results of this. For example, a company may have 1,000 management employees and 10 of them are African Americans. There was a time where you could just put that in front of the court and say, look, it's obvious that this company is racist, because out of 1,000 managers, you got 10 African Americans, which is what, 1%. Well, under Rehnquist, SCOTUS handed down cases that said, no, you got to prove intentional discrimination, not just disparate impact, not just the results, but you got to show where they intentionally did so. And so with that high hurdle, you then had to try to find where somebody used the N-word or something, or where someone, is on videotape or audio tape saying something really, really ugly. If you couldn't find something, a smoking gun like that, if you couldn't catch somebody red-handed like that, you can't prove intent, or it's hard to. So it just lifted the burden of proof in these cases under Rehnquist. And what you said is so true too about the judge. Let's go back. This judge is an Obama appointee. Okay, Obama nominated him for the bench, and before becoming a judge, he had done work with the Mexican American Legal Defense Fund. So he has a record of fighting for civil rights. So the fact that he's on the bench is a plus for Byron Allen. Suppose suppose the judge was
Aileen Shannon or whoever
in
Florida over the Trump case.
Right.
Yeah. Judge Aileen Shannon.
Right. Which we'll come into in a moment. But yeah, Chloe, you're right. The judge who sits on the bench. Now, how do we control that? How do we, the citizenry, how do we impact that? By voting. We get out there and we vote hard in record numbers for Obama. Obama then nominate, and Joe Biden then nominate justices who are more amenable to civil rights, as opposed to Trump appointees or some other racist president, and they're going to nominate folks who are hostile to civil rights. Well, all of that is because of people voting or not voting.
Yeah. It's important, everyone.
Absolutely. So this case, round one goes to Byron Allen. I have a little something here to. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. All right, and his companies. All right, so keep your eyes on this case. This is a very, very, very important case, okay, because Section 1981 is very important to the African American community. We have cases right now based on Section 1981 where we are protecting our clients' civil rights. We know personally. That's why we created this channel, because we want to empower you to, we use these stories, these things, these legal stories that happen every day in this country. We use them to try to educate you. Education is so important. It's the key to being empowered. It's the key to fighting, this systemic racism in this country, right? So that's why helping us grow to 5,000 subscribers is so very, very, very important. Very important. Yes. Now, Chloe, if we were talking foolishness, if we were talking about the latest rap this and the latest, baby mama that, or the latest, video, the latest song out there, the latest who got shot, if we were talking about that, oh man, we'd probably already have 100,000 subscribers.
Yep. but by bringing knowledge, come on, we're bringing knowledge out here in the sea of just social media, debauchery and everything. So if you want to be knowledgeable, if you want to um have information, like we say in our intro, we say what we mean and we meant that. If you want to have information to go up against something, unjust system with your children or a school district or whatever it is, this is the channel for you, because we're going to bring it that way and we're going to break it down and make sure that you understand it.
Okay, so I guess we can move on from this and start talking about another person who is in the news big time, and that is Donald John Trump. We got to talk about him because, wow, so much is going on with this guy. So much.
So much.
I did a video once he was defeated by Joe Biden, and I said that he could be more of a danger to this country out of office than he was in office. And man, I believe I was spot on. But Chloe, tell us about this story. What's going on here with this sister? We got a video too. After you give us a little introduction, I have a video that we can play to explain.
Yeah, so this woman right here, she's Letitia James. She is the New York Attorney General. She's the top legal attorney, top
She
dog
doesn't
in New
play.
York.
She doesn't play. I'm telling you all.
She don't play. Ooh, she did not play. So she has filed a lawsuit on behalf of the state of New York against Donald Trump, his 3 adult children, Alan Weisselberg, who's associated with Trump Organization.
I
And
think he
she's
was.
alleging.
I think he was their accountant.
Oh, okay. So yes. So against him, and it's important that she named him too, because she's alleging that Trump, his children, the Trump Organization entities, they inflated how much their companies were worth, excuse me, and they misrepresented how much value were in their companies. The damages in the amount of $250 against Donald Trump and the other defendant.
$250 million.
$50 million, excuse me. $250 million, not $250. So that's a lot of money. And there had been some settlement talk between Trump and Letitia James's office, and he had made some settlement offers, which obviously she did not take into account because she filed this lawsuit against him, and she's seeking millions of dollars for acts of fraud and misrepresentation, allegedly. So that's the story.
Yeah, that's the short of the story. There's so much more, and
Yeah.
but yeah, these are allegations. Donald Trump is presumed innocent of all of these charges until and unless Miss James can prove his guilt. All right, so let's play the video. It's about 3 minutes.
I am announcing that today we are filing a lawsuit against Donald Trump for violating the law as part of his efforts to generate profits for himself, his family, and his company. The complaint demonstrates that Donald Trump falsely inflated his net worth by billions of dollars to unjustly enrich himself and to cheat the system, thereby cheating all of us. He did this with the help of the other defendants, his children, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, and Eric Trump, and former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg and Trump Organization Controller Jeffrey McConney. Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization repeatedly and persistently manipulated the value of assets to induce banks to lend money to the Trump Organization on more favorable terms than would otherwise have been available to the company. to pay lower taxes, to satisfy continuing loan agreements, and to induce insurance companies to provide insurance coverage for higher limits and at lower premiums. This conduct was all in violation of Executive Law, Section 6312, which gives the Attorney General broad and special powers to go after persistent and repeated fraud and illegality. As part of demonstrating illegality under that section of Law 6312, we show that they violated several state criminal laws, including falsifying business records, issuing false financial statements, insurance fraud, and engaging in a conspiracy to commit each of these state law violations. We believe the conduct alleged in this action also violates federal criminal law, including issuing false statements to financial institutions and bank fraud. And we are referring those criminal violations that we've uncovered to the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York and the Internal Revenue Service. As a result of these violations, we are asking the court to.
Now, let's just point out a couple of things before we go further. There's a couple more minutes. There's one particular part I want you all to hear, and that is what AG James has done, as Chloe said, is filed a lawsuit. $250 million is what she's asking for, and she's also asking for some other things that you'll hear about in a moment. But notice, this is a civil lawsuit. She is not the district attorney, so she can't bring criminal charges. I don't know that to be the case. I won't say that. I don't know if the New York Attorney General can actually bring civil cases, a criminal case against someone. But in most instances, it is the district attorney who has to bring the criminal charge. And I think these alleged crimes would have been committed in Manhattan, where the Trump organization is headquartered. And as of right now, the DA, the newly elected African-American DA, has elected not to bring state charges, criminal charges against Trump. So all she can do is refer her findings to the DA and to the federal prosecutors as well. And she also said to the IRS. So she's suing him, but she's also saying, hey, I think you all should look at this. And again, everything that she's saying is alleged at this point. All right. So let's go back to the video. Chloe, you want to add anything?
No, I was going to point out this is a civil suit.
Okay. All right. I beat you to it.
Among other things, permanently bar Mr. Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump, Eric Trump, from serving as an officer or director in any corporation or similar entity registered and or licensed in New York. To bar Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization from entering into any New York State commercial real estate acquisition or from applying for loans from any financial institution in New York for 5 years. To pay for the financial benefits obtained as a result of the persistent fraudulent practices at an estimated $250 million. And towards the end of my remarks, I will go into the other relief that we are seeking. Examples I laid out just barely scratch the surface of the misconduct that we have uncovered. The complaint, which all of you should have a copy, is more than 280 pages long. It includes examples from 23 assets that were grossly and fraudulently inflated, and those inflated values were used on Mr. Trump's statements almost every year. All told, we uncovered more than 200 examples of false and misleading asset valuations that were used on his statements. The pattern of fraud and deception that was used by Mr. Trump and the Trump Organization for their own financial benefit is astounding.
That's what I wanted you all to hear. You see, did you hear, Chloe, the contempt that she said? This astounding. And she,
Yeah.
astounding. I mean, she is making the point that this is mind blowing what Trump and his family have been able to get away with. But again, these are alleged offenses.
Yeah. There's a couple things I want to point out too. One, a lot of people are asking, why have criminal charges not been proved? The burden of proof for criminal cases is much higher than civil cases. So,
You said been proved, or you mean been filed against them?
been filed against him. Yeah. Sorry guys, I don't know where my head is at today. I meant been filed against him. um the burden of proof for criminal cases is much higher than in civil cases. So that could be a thing that the United States Department of Justice is looking into, as well as the Manhattan DA, to see that even with all of this evidence, if there's enough to get an indictment to file charges against Trump and the organization. Um, my second point is, now I forgot it. um, I'm sure it'll come back to me, but I
Yeah.
did have another point I want to bring out.
Okay, well let me just answer a question that was asked and maybe to come back to you. That question is, can the DOJ bring charges against Trump even if the Manhattan DA does not? The answer is yes. If the DOJ feels or believes that Trump violated federal law, not state law, federal law, then the DOJ can bring federal charges even if the Manhattan DA does not bring state charges. So yes, they can. But as Chloe was just explaining, the the burden of proof is much higher than in a civil case. Civil case, just a preponderance of the evidence, just 51%. In other words, did he probably do it? If the answer to that, if a jury says, yeah, he probably did everything they said, then he can be found liable. The burden of proof in a criminal case, as Chloe was explaining, is much, 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 much higher. And the federal government does things different when they're prosecuting somebody. They will do the investigation first. They will, put their sights on somebody and investigate them and see if they believe they have enough proof to prove the charges before they even file the charges. The state does it different. Most states do it completely different. They file the charges and then do the investigation to see if they can prove it, which is why with state cases, you can sometimes get them dismissed. Whereas with the federal cases, it's very difficult to get them dismissed because they would have already done their investigation. And if they don't feel, as Chloe said, that they got the evidence they need, they don't even bring the charge in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember what I was going to say before. The reason why Letitia James said it, the allegations that they made out in the complaint is astounding. I wanted to put it in perspective because what the state of New York is alleging is that Trump inflated his personal wealth, saying he made more money or had a larger net worth than what he had. His organizations, allegedly defrauded various banks and stuff to make themselves rich, more wealthy, to get more favorable interest rates, to have loose lending terms from all of these huge banks that they've done work with to make themselves even more rich. Like for me, now I'm in the process of buying a house. And the amount of documents that I have to provide to buy this house is insane. and the bank goes into checking every little nook and cranny of your financial life. What the state of New York is saying is that Trump defrauded, lied, inflated how much he was making, inflated how much his businesses were making. Trump organization is comprised of over 500 organizations. So these allegations are that they misrepresented all of these terms to make more money for themselves. That is astounding if true and if proven. And I believe that's why she said it's astounding. And it goes into this also just the difference between the wealthy and the poor in this country. This is what the wealthy are doing. They are, you know, using all these loopholes, a lot of which are legal, that are written into our tax codes and other things like that. But also some, and I'm sure some of Trump's, wealthy friends are looking into this to see how this plays out, would potentially defraud and misrepresenting their wealth and things to get more wealthy, while doing absolutely nothing to benefit the poor, to help the people at the bottom, the middle class. So that is kind of what is coming to play with all of this as well.
Yeah. You may have sort of misspoken on a couple words, but let me tell you something, Chloe. You're really laying it out very well. Um, all the salient, significant points here of this Trump investigation and so forth, and it's exactly what I expect because you got that young, sharp mind, and you know, I'm the old dude, um, so
I tell people, look, lawyers are humans too. We going if you listen to lawyers, you're gonna hear some mistakes and everything. So we're not perfect, but trust me, the information that we're giving is right on point. You're gonna get that information.
okay, so we'll move to our next topic. I do want to shout out Sister Ave Aldridge, who is always on
Hello.
point.
Yes.
Yeah, she's always on point. She said knowledge is power, bugs her, bugs us that so many people seem to be complacent and being ignorant of the system. She she agrees with us that Tish James is nobody to play with. I mean, really, you
Nobody.
just would not want this woman on your track. I mean, seriously.
And Tish James is 63. I mean, I know y'all say that's not
Oh,
old, which is not, but
it's not. In fact, really, she doesn't look 63.
I know. Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear that actually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So she's been in this game a minute, for some decades. So, and you, that gravitas, you can feel it when she speaks. And here's another thing with that she's getting a lot of
Astounding.
astounding. She put all of that 63 years of black woman on that. But that
Yeah, yeah, that black woman is all on this right here. Absolutely. She put all the stink face and the neck shaking and she didn't just say astounding. She said astounding. I grew up with aunts like that. So I mean, I know all about black women like that. You don't mess with them. Trust me, you don't mess with them.
don't. And she's getting some criticism because they're saying that, like, when she campaigned for attorney general, she ran on going after Trump and, doing this, and this was her platform. Which, okay, sure, you may be able to make that criticism, but she also kind of was instrumental in taking down Andrew Cuomo.
That's true.
Um, she's also, I mean, so she's done things to investigate and go after members of her own party as well. So I
That's a
think that
very
gives her a
good
lot of
point.
credence when doing this.
That's
Yeah,
an excellent point, Chloe.
yeah,
That's an excellent point. She is sort of directly responsible for Como's fall,
yeah,
who is a Democrat,
yeah.
like she
So
is. Right. So I completely agree with that. And another thing, she's a native New Yorker. So they grew up seeing all the stuff Trump did over the years.
mm,
Okay. I have a good friend, Barry Jenkins, who is from the Bronx. And he tells me all the time, they know better than anybody Donald Trump. And So this woman is in a position now to try to hold him accountable because, according to, you know, native New Yorkers, he's been getting away with stuff for a long time, and I'm aware of that too, actually. So, yeah, she's a sister that again you just wouldn't want on your case. All right, Chloe. So we're coming to an end here. We want to sort of humorously, we want to talk about why, if our phone rang and on the other line was Donald Trump or a Trump representative, and that person said, we'd like for you to represent Donald Trump. Now, we know that probably won't happen, you know. But, yeah, I mean, I saw you kind of shake your head a little bit. It's possible. I mean,
No, I was saying I don't, it won't happen.
Yeah,
You
it
know
probably
how
won't.
he is. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it probably won't. But if it did happen, just indulge me a minute. Child, like my mother used to say, child, ain't no way in the world we would represent that man.
Yeah.
We would say no, never. And we're going to give you like 4 quick reasons why we would never, ever, ever represent Trump. And that's saying a lot because we've represented some bad people.
Yeah.
I recently, this past August, celebrated 15 years as a practicing attorney. And I have represented from murderers on down. Okay. And so it's saying a lot to say we would not, nope, 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 no thank you, represent this guy. Okay. And now, what if a court appointed us to, which will never happen because in order to be appointed to represent somebody, that person has to be indigent, and Trump is not indigent. So, all right, why wouldn't we represent him? First, he talks too much.
Yeah.
Want to address that?
He loves the sound of his own voice. And one of the things that when a person comes to us and wants to hire us, whether it be for a criminal case, a civil case, family law case, civil rights case, the first thing that we tell them is stop talking. Don't talk to the police. Don't talk to the opposing party. The only people you should be speaking about your case with is us, is your attorneys. And so the fact that Trump loves the sound of his own voice, loves to get out in the media and talk, would be one of the main reasons why we would go, you would not be a good client for Corbin and Corbett. For example, example number 1, the interview that he just did a couple nights ago with Hannity, a wide-ranging interview where Trump addressed all of his legal woes because he has a lot all across the country.
I'm sure his lawyers were sitting there like, I would think they told him not to do it, but who knows?
But then they're getting paid too. So, hey, we give you the advice. If you don't take it, I'm sure they're thinking, I don't know what their retainer looks like, but if they getting billed, they're getting paid as well. But
We're
in
gonna
that
talk. We're
interview,
gonna talk about getting paid in just a minute.
yeah, in that interview, one of the things that stuck out is talking about the declassifying documents. As most people know, the FBI raided his Mar-a-Lago home, claimed that they found, a lot of classified documents. And Trump said that, well, you can declassify documents, even by thinking it. So, wait, what?
Wow.
First, wait, what? And the fact that he's talking and giving this interview with Hannity when he's the subject of an investigation and there's pending litigation, I mean, yeah, we would have to cut it.
Yeah, we shut our clients down when they're facing criminal charges or if there's a lawsuit or something. We shut them down. I mean, we advise them oftentimes to just deactivate your social media accounts.
Yep.
Prosecutors, opposing counsel are going to be all over your social media accounts, scrubbing it, getting everything they can to use against you. Just shut it down. Well, good luck trying to get this guy to stop talking. He's just not going to do it
Mm-mm.
because he thinks he can out talk his way and has done that pretty much. That's what Tish James is trying to say. He has been able to get away with all kind of astounding things, allegedly. All right, he talked too much. 2, his lawyers go to prison.
Yikes.
Yeah, unfortunately, Michael Cohen, who represented Trump for a long time, he he did end up, with several federal charges representing Trump, and he's a big part of this Letitia James investigation. Actually, he has helped them a lot.
And I remember reading about Michael Cohen. I hadn't really heard much about him until he went to prison and all of the scandal. But to me, it just goes to show Trump is probably like, I want you to get me out of all of these messes. I don't care what extent you have to take, what boundaries you have to cross. And that's not something we do. We operate within the law. We are ethical. We operate within the ethical requirements of the state of Texas and the federal courts that we're licensed in. We fight hard for our clients and we're going to be aggressive, but it's going to be within the bounds of the law. So, unfortunately, Michael Cohen and I'm sure his other lawyers, um, that may not be what Trump wants. So that would not we would not represent him. That's another reason why we wouldn't represent him.
That's right. Okay. His lawyers get sued. So this lady, Sidney Powell, is being sued by, I think, a company called Dominion, um, whose company I think owned a lot of the voting machines that were a part of the last presidential election, and Sidney Powell and Trump's team made a bunch of allegations against this company and defamed them allegedly, and so the company sued Powell, this attorney. She's a Texas attorney, um, because she was out there going hard for Trump. I mean, she was going hard for him. He's able to find these lawyers and other people who will take a bullet for him. I mean, they will take a bullet. They'll go to prison. They'll go down for Trump.
Mm,
Um, so this is another reason, Chloe.
yeah, yeah. And she was supposed to also testify in front of a Fulton County grand jury for investigations into election fraud by
That's
Trump.
right.
She was a no-show.
She didn't show up.
So she could have legal repercussions for that, for not showing, for not testifying in front of that grand jury.
All
But
right.
yeah.
Next, his lawyer's license gets suspended.
When you put it like this, had some Giuliani probably at the top of the list.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's amazing that they go this hard. I mean, we zealously represent our clients, like you said, but not to the extent that we're gonna end up going to prison or getting license suspended or sued. No, 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 nope, nope,
Yeah. Yep.
nope. All right. Last thing is his lawyers don't get paid. This man here, he's a lawyer out of Florida, and he had to sue Trump to get, I think, $5,000 in legal fees reportedly, and he won. So
Trump.
just
So Trump claiming to have all this money but can't pay $5,000 in legal fees
and
or won't pay it.
there are other kinds of people who've done work for him, contractors and so forth, who've also many of them have said they've tried to get paid, and he just have his lawyers jump on them, and they can't fight all his lawyers, so they just oftentimes walk away.
Mm.
That's reported. So now, as we come to a close, I had to include this picture. This is a picture that Trump put on his social media account reportedly. And what's curious about this picture is the Q on his lapel. And many people believe it is Trump basically coming out and saying that either I am with the QAnon people or I am Q. I mean, one of the two. But he's definitely identifying with this crazy, 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 crazy QAnon movement. This should really deeply concern this country. That this man, who will likely be the Republican nominee for president, is coming out and basically saying that he is a part of QAnon. Man, I mean, we're in what Obama calls silly season.
Yep.
I mean, we're in just really weird days where the former president, who could become president again, and who got all these people following him who are winning elections around the country, coming out and essentially saying, I am Q, or I am a part of the QAnon movement. Now, Chloe, you like to give, a little background information. QAnon. I mean, what is that?
I knew someone who believed in QAnon. And it wasn't just a regular person, but from what I know or can remember, I haven't looked into it in a minute. It's there. So QAnon. So there's this Mr. figure named Q, and apparently he or she has information about a lot of high level Democrats who are doing um debaucherous things
To children.
to children and other people. So they believe that Trump is like the second coming, kind of like a comparison to Christ, which is insane,
Wow.
to save us from the Democrats and everything that they're doing. And that he's a savior. He was brought here for a reason, to correct all of that, etc.
So he
Some
has,
bonkers things.
say it again.
Some things that are bonkers.
I know. And he will likely be the Republican nominee, run for office, and could win. Do, do folks really get this? Do people really understand the days that we're living in and what our country faces? So he is the QAnon people, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the KKK, the Aryan Nation, the Boogaloo Boys, all these groups of people who are unhinged are his followers. And right up in that are white evangelicals. Right up in the middle of all of that. Whew.
And can just about QAnon real quick, Dad, because the fact that he put this picture up saying the storm is coming. Wow. Okay. So the core QAnon theory is that there is a group of satanic, cannibalistic pedophiles who conspired against former US President Donald Trump during his term in office. And they say that the Trump administration secretly fought this group of pedophiles and will conduct mass arrests, that his administration is going to conduct mass arrests and executions of thousands of these members on a day known as the storm or the event. So that's is I presume that's what he's referring
Wow.
to. The storm is coming.
Wow, 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 wow.
Yeah.
I'm I'm lost for words. I'm speechless. This is kind of almost too much to get my head around. And could win. And not only don't just look at him, but people who support him are winning GOP elections around the country. His type of folk, QAnon folk, Boogaloo boys, Oath Keepers, white supremacists, they're winning elections all around the country. And it brings me to our final little segment here. This guy, Ron DeSantis. DeSantis said, what? Folks, I got a little video to show you here about something that Ron DeSantis said this past week. You got to hear it for yourself.
Well, I would tell them to read Florida statutes. We are required to teach slavery, the post-Reconstruction and segregation, civil rights. Those are core parts of American history that should be taught, but it should also be taught accurately. For example, the 1619 Project is a CRT version of history. It's supported by the New York Times. They want to teach our kids that the American Revolution was fought to protect slavery, and that's false. We know why the American Revolution was fought. They wrote pamphlets. We saw them dump tea into the Boston Harbor. We saw them meet in Philadelphia, and we have the records of why they revolted against King George III. And so it was the American Revolution that caused people to question slavery. No one had questioned it before we decided as Americans that we are endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights and that we are all created equal. Then that birthed abolition movements.
Wow. That is revisionist history. Okay. The 1619 Project, by the way, I recommend you all get that book and read that book. Nicole Hannah-Jones did a fantastic job telling history from a unbiased perspective, not one glossed over by, excuse me, white historians who want to tell history in a certain way, to tell history in a way that absolves the founders and the framers, from the wrong and the evil that they did. And so, yes, the American Revolution, Nicole Hannah-Jones does say in the 1619 Project that some, initially she said the colonists fought the American Revolutionary War to preserve slavery, and some white historians had a hissy, so she changed it to some colonialists fought the American Revolutionary War, and and she's absolutely true. She's telling the truth. Some of the colonists did fight the American Revolutionary. Let me put it this way, and then I'm gonna come to something else she said. He said, put it this way: many of the African Americans fought on the side of the British. What does that tell you? Many of them fought with the British. Some fought with the Americans, but many others fought with the British because they figured it would mean freedom for them. Okay? So it is completely reasonable that some of the colonists were uh, trying to separate themselves from the monarch over the issue of slavery. Now, we can debate that point. But what we cannot debate is where he said it was the American Revolutionary War that spun abolitionist movements, and where he said that no one really said anything about slavery or against slavery until the Americans did so, until whites did so. Oh my God. Oh my God. As far as the Americans being the first one to speak out on slavery, speak against slavery, what about Moses? What about God, who sent Moses to speak out against slavery? What about the slaves themselves? Fighting hard to end slavery, rebelling all over the place to end slavery. But according to Ron DeSantis, slavery didn't really become an issue until whites said, okay, slavery is an issue.
And these are the people who are trying to run our country and are running our country. And on the issue of what is being taught in school, I read an article the other day here in Texas. At least 1 out of 4 teachers are not certified. One, they're not certified to teach. And two, Texas is leading in states that are banning books in public schools. And a lot of those books are related to um, black issues, racism, slavery, and how horrendous it is. I mean, that's the state of the country that we're living in today. And then on top of that, there are campaigns, just public libraries in general, to ban books as well. So now are you not only are you banning it for children and in schools, but they just want to ban it for the general population. I mean, the erasure of knowledge is just wow. It's sad.
And this is the world, the country that your generation is inheriting.
Yep.
So it's really more of your generation who should be standing in opposition to what the GOP is doing. And by the way, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I've been both. I was a Democrat for many years, and then I became a Republican for many years. But for the last 20 something years, I've been an independent. I'm 60 years old. So, I mean, basically a third of my life was, um, I mean, you can look at it that way, Chloe. A third of my life, I was a Democrat. The second third, I was a Republican. And this third here, I'm independent because I don't, strongly dislike both parties for different reasons.
I'm definitely center left, but I have issues with both parties too. Like none of ne- neither party serves the interests of African Americans adequately at all.
Well,
The
before we,
Republicans openly don't want to serve it. The Democrats try to serve it and use us to get votes, but then don't really address the issues when they get in office. A lot of them. So it's like, where do you go?
was there anything you want to rant about before we?
Oh Lord.
I think DeSantis was my rant.
And that was a good one.
What about the
Nothing this week.
What about the Nia Long
Oh
situation?
yeah.
What
I
about that one?
mean, that's just a bad look on what is his name? Ime Udoka. So apparently the Boston Celtic head coach had some type of inappropriate relationship with a female member of his staff or the organization. And he has been long time engaged to Nia Long for many, many, many years. They have a 10-year-old son together. And I read
Which I
reports
don't
that
I don't even understand that. How are you engaged 10 years?
I I don't know, but they were engaged for
What
that long.
yeah, I mean, but come on, that makes no sense.
Yeah, yeah. And apparently this investigation has been going on for months. I read news reports that he didn't warn her about it.
I mean,
At least warn her.
Chloe. Okay, so a man proposes,
Mhm.
she accepts. And let's say it's January 1, 2010, or 2023, since that's coming up. Say, okay, great, you all, congratulations. So when are y'all getting married? Yeah, it'll be in 2033.
I don't think it's planned out like that.
Okay.
I think it's more I mean, I think it's more like, okay, let's do it in 2 years and then it comes, but when it's not the right time or let's get our finances right and then it's 3 more and then you just look up and it's 10 years later.
Well, just say you're not engaged. Just say you're dating.
Yeah.
I mean,
It seems like that's what they were doing for a long time. I mean, I think she was mostly living in LA or wherever he was out there in Boston, but she did just move to Boston right before the championship in February. So, I mean, my thing is like apparently this has been investigated for months. Reportedly, she didn't know about it. I mean, your significant other or someone you have a child with, at least warn me. I would want to, hey, look, I have something to tell you. There's this investigation going. It's probably going to break. I at least want to warn you so that you can, before it hits the media, can have processed it already. But he didn't even warn her. And I don't know. It's not a good look. But what I don't like is I feel like all of the focus has been on this versus the Brett Favre issue.
you took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like this is bad, but what about all of the focus, all of the outrage about what Brett Favre allegedly did to defraud millions of people from welfare of millions of dollars of welfare money,
Allegedly.
allegedly. So that's kind of my
Folks, we have to keep saying allegedly. In fact, everything is allegedly, okay,
everything's
until somebody's
allegedly.
been prosecuted,
Yeah,
convicted, because we don't want to get sued for defamation. So it's everything is alleged. Alleged.
allegedly.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and finally, the gang culture with young African Americans, especially in the hip hop community. I don't want to smear the hip hop community because there are a bunch of hip hop people who are not a part of the gang culture, but it seems like every so often another rapper is murdered. And this PNB, I think PNB Rock from Philadelphia, robbed and murdered out in LA at Roscoe's famous waffles and chicken. And we know firsthand, Chloe, being attorneys, about just the situation with a lot of these young black men out here. It is really bad. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And the gang culture, the Bloods and the Crips, used to be mostly an LA thing. Now it is all over the country. I'm from a really small town in North Carolina, and from my understanding, you got Bloods and Crips in that little small town, and this violent culture. It's it's sad.
It is sad. We should do a whole episode on it. What led up to it?
Well, let's plan it
Um,
for next week.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week. You're specifically talking about what, the shootings of the rap artists or the gang culture generally?
Gang culture generally.
Okay. Okay. So we'll do it. We'll tee it up for next week. What about that?
So stay tuned for that, y'all. We're
Yeah.
gonna break it down because it's a lot of it is by design. A lot of it we're complicit in. So we will break that down and discuss it. Thank you all for sticking with us today through my little technical issues with breaking up some or freezing. But we hope that you all learned something from this broadcast today. Again, we're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Help us reach it. Share this video on all your social media platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Google, wherever you're online. Share this video, email it, text it. We really want to get our community up and continue to grow with you all.
So yes, please help us get 5,000 subscribers.
Yes.
Please. We
Please.
need your help by the end of the year. Lord, that voice just cracks
Me up.
Me too.
All right, you all. We are out. Peace. Love. So